Hello and welcome to well, I guess it's actually the penultimate update video for Morrowind Rebirth. Taking a look at both the new 4.9 release, as well as some of the new changes included with Rebirth 4.8. This is by no means a, complete showcase of Morrowind Rebirth, and for a more just in-depth look at all that, Morrowind Rebirth offers, you should check out the Rebirth 4.6 showcase video. You'll find a link to that, as well as a download link for Morrowind Rebirth down below. And anyway, the reason why I'm calling this the penultimate update video is because, I don't know if you guys have heard this yet or not, but apparently 5.0 is going to be the last major update for Morrowind Rebirth. And, well, that is actually a pretty major news. Morrowind Rebirth has been in development in one form or another since basically 2007. That's like 12 years. It's, well, coming to the end of an era. And 5.0 is actually in beta release right now, and you'll find a link to that down below as well. And, well, so that's really coming up pretty quickly here, so we're not going to have very many of these update videos to do in the future. But anyway, in the meantime, let's take a look at all that Rebirth changes with the new 4.9 release, starting with new town and city overhauls. By far the biggest highlight with the new 4.9 update is a new overhaul and redesign of the city of Ald'Ruhn, which until now has largely been overlooked by Morrowind Rebirth. With the new 4.9 release, you'll find a newly detailed and cluttered capital of Great House Ald'Ruhn, with gardens in the center of city plazas, such as, around the city gates here, where you'll now find a small garden with plants native to the, ashlands, as well as new streetlights, to just help illuminate the city of Ald'Ruhn during the evening and nighttime hours, and also just lots of new miscellaneous clutter, such as crates and awnings, bits of grass, and other just various items lining the sides of streets and buildings, providing a much more just lifelike feeling to the city here. There's also a new well for drinking water located in the middle of the residential district, and you'll notice that a large part of the city has been just sort of rearranged here, so as to be a bit more logical, with the major faction headquarters around the city gates, residential buildings occupying the second tier of the city, leading off towards the temple, and shops and taverns occupying the upper, tier here before you come to Underscar. There's also a new garden in the middle of the shopping district, and you'll notice that Underscar has actually been moved so that it now sits slightly above the city, with staircases just, leading up to it. Personally, I really like this design here. It adds just a bit of verticality to the city of Ald'Ruhn, something that was lacking before, and gives Underscar a just more dramatic entrance, as befits the glory of Great House Ald'Ruhn. But anyway, also of note here is that Ald'Ruhn is now just fully enclosed by walls here, with no part of the city left open to the wilderness and hapless wanderings of wild beasts. And taking a look at the temple complex, not much has really changed here, at least not since the last release of Morrowind Rebirth. There might be some slight changes with cluttering, but for the most part, the temple complex is, the same as in past versions of Morrowind Rebirth. Now, the second big change here, as far as city developments go, with Rebirth 4.9, is the fortress city of Ebonheart. Now, Ebonheart already got a pretty major, makeover in Rebirth 4.8, and it was a pretty major change, so much so we even did a comparison video showing off the Ebonheart in 4.8 alongside the Ebonheart from 4.7. And to be frank, opinions were a bit mixed on the redesign, and I'd encourage you to check out that other video if you want a more detailed breakdown of how Ebonheart used to look. But anyway, with Morrowind Rebirth 4.9, Ebonheart has again received some pretty major changes here, with a new set of walls, splitting off the docks from the rest of the city, a new Ebon statue fountain, and also some just minor changes to the Ebonheart castle. And for those of you who've watched our Ebonheart 4.8 showcase video, or who've played Rebirth 4.8, you'll remember that Morrowind Rebirth basically flattens the entire city of Ebonheart, including Castle Ebonheart, so that was all on the same level field. This has been changed here in Rebirth 4.9, with the castle once again gaining a perch overlooking the city, on a raised island connected by a bridge to the main settlement. And this is obviously an improvement over the castle in 4.8, but it's still, kind of lacking some of the more impressive fortifications from 4.7. But anyway, moving on to the outskirts of Ebonheart, another just major change here is with a new set of farmlands, just to the south of the city here. And for those keeping track, back before, Rebirth 4.7, there were already farms on the southern side of Ebonheart, only those were shack farms. These were removed in Rebirth 4.8 and replaced with, well, actually nothing, so that this was all just empty space. Now the farms are back, but, instead of shacks, you have Imperial and Nordic-style farmsteads. A more befitting an Imperial-style settlement like Ebonheart. And the design here is similar to that of Pelesiad, where Imperial soldiers have retired to, the quiet farming life, but are still within reach of the fortress citadel of Ebonheart. And really, this is another change that I really just quite enjoy personally. These farms really turn the southern tip of Ebonheart into a sort of idyllic and peaceful landscape, ideal for just passing through or enjoying the scenery. And speaking of, another new addition here is a new lighthouse, or, well, sort of new. There was already a lighthouse here before with past versions of Morrowind Rebirth, but the old lighthouse was a simple retexture of the Sedanine lighthouse, and now the Ebonheart lighthouse has a proper, completely just new model here. Though curiously enough, it doesn't seem to actually have a light source, the revelation of which will be a startling surprise for, passing ships at night, who will doubtless end up running straight into the Palace of Vivek, unfortunate victims of poorly managed Imperial bureaucracy and lighthouse maintenance. But anyway, just moving on to some of the smaller city changes that you'll find in Morrowind Rebirth 4.9, the city of Suran has had a few changes and alterations made to it, particularly along the upper level of the city here, with various detailing and cluttering around the temple, including a new Velothi-style building here to the side, which is apparently a temple warehouse where the priests can keep their excess storage. But anyway, that's about everything new with the town of Suran here. So just moving on, real quick, I wanted to show off one of the new gameplay features that was included with, I believe, Morrowind Rebirth 4.8, but which we haven't covered here before. And that's the new banking system that you'll find in Ebonheart, with a new bank where you can deposit money and interest, and there's also a bit of lore that ties into the banking system that you can find in temporarily built old Ebonheart. And given that Morrowind Rebirth has a harder, economy than vanilla Morrowind, this just provides a nice balance and a new way to, earn a bit of gold on the side here. Now before we check out the new dungeon additions and overhauls included in Rebirth 4.9, there's one other small thing I wanted to show off here first, and that's a rather major change to the landscape in the Bitter Coast region. With Rebirth 4.9, you'll now find a new river or bayou just north of La Ode along the road to Gnar Mark, which just adds a bit of a variety to the landscape here. And in vanilla Morrowind, this was all just really a collection of small swamps, with nothing really notable in them. And now there's at least a little bit more diversity to the terrain here when you're, traveling through the area. But anyway, moving on to some of the just more exciting new developments with Morrowind Rebirth. As of 4.9, you'll now find a new Daedric Shrine in the Mushroom Forest outside of Dagonfell, as you can see here. And this isn't a huge dungeon by any stretch of the imagination, but it does fit in pretty well with the landscape here, and gives you, something more to do in this part of the Sheogorath. Now, personally, the Mushroom Forest here has always been one of my absolute favorite locations in vanilla Morrowind, but it didn't really have a whole lot to do in it. There were, plenty of dungeons around it, but mostly you were just passing through to someplace else. And now you've got a bit more to do here, and as I always say, more dungeon delving content is always a good thing. But this isn't the only new addition as far as dungeons go, with Rebirth 4.9. There's also a number of new expansions and overhauls of vanilla tombs, adding more chambers for you to fight through, and more undead and just other creatures for you to face. And Rebirth has actually been doing this for a while now, but between the 4.8 and 4.9 updates, nearly 8 new tomb expansions and overhauls have been added in, including, most notably, Samari's Ancestral Tomb, which now has a fairly larger layout and a harder challenge for you to face before you can get, the legendary artifact of the Minta's Ring. And this is probably the best example of the new tomb expansions in Rebirth 4.9. Most of the other, additions here are fairly minor in comparison, amounting to 1 or 2 new chambers and maybe a few new undead here and there. Ancestral tombs aren't the only type of dungeon to get a makeover in Morrowind Rebirth 4.9 though. The Dwemer ruins of O'Dressel and Vimnal, two of the more prominent Dwemer ruins on Red Mountain, have also been given some new additions here. Namely, a new 6th House themed chambers, where you'll find some of the high-ranking members of the 6th House. And these are really just pretty darkly atmospheric chambers to stumble upon, really catching the essence of the 6th House. And speaking of, Rebirth 4.9 also makes some new additions to the famed lost capital of the 6th House here, the ruined stronghold of Kogarun. There's been a couple of ruined buildings added to the outskirts here, but by far the biggest changes have been made to the stronghold complex itself, with a new 6th House banners, exterior cluttering, and detailing, and also a new bell tower, which, if you've been, watching this channel at all for the last 4 months, it should just look awfully familiar to you. This bell tower is basically a small-scale version of the same bell tower found in the Kogarun Expanded mod by Team Dramaquama. And indeed, Morrowind Rebirth has ported more than a few assets and mods resources that were created for the 2018 Madness competition, and used them to help, just decorate various 6th House dungeons and locations. And now, whenever you delve into a 6th House dungeon, you might notice some unique furniture, or some of those 6th House urns, which just adds some variety to the otherwise lacking 6th House assets in Vanilla Morrowind. Now, moving on, Rebirth 4.9 also adds in a couple of new creatures to the game's level list here, including the Ash Scrib, a just larger and more aggressive version of the typically pacifist native Scrib, which roams the regions of Malagamur and the Ashlands. And while it won't provide much of a challenge in a fight, it can still paralyze you for a decent amount of time here. But anyway, just wrapping things up here, there's just a few new additions to Morrowind Rebirth I want to cover, including some new items and new replacers for vanilla game objects. First and foremost, starting with Rebirth 4.8, Morrowind Rebirth has started replacing unique objects in the game with actual unique models and icons. These are items that were unique in the base game, but in Vanilla Morrowind had duplicate models of existing weapons, armor, and clothing. Already, Rebirth has replaced about 25 to 30 unique objects in the game with unique meshes here, and more are doubtless on the way in the future. There's also a handful of new items in Morrowind Rebirth 4.9, including a new set of trading cards hidden about the game world here, with about a dozen unique cards for you to find, some of which you can see here. They include cards for Almalexia, Dagatha, Vivek, and other critters from Morrowind. There's also a new Crabshell Helm, and a new Nordic Dagger, and a Short Sword. And anyway, while there's a ton of other changes and additions here in Rebirth 4.9, that's pretty much it for the main highlights. And again, down the links are down below. And the new Rebirth 5.0 beta has now been released to the public, so, don't forget to check that out. And anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time for what might be the last update video for Morrowind Rebirth. But anyway, I'll just see you all later.